Oops, hang on one second, everybody. Welcome to Building the Pride in a segment I'm calling Off the Bench. Sorry, I didn't have my microphone set up. So if that audio was a little weird to start, that's on me, not on you guys. Let me get this out of here. Hi, everybody. It's Drew with Building the Pride. Let's get that up there. And because I have moved to a second shift job, Mike and I can't always do the podcast together. So this week I will be doing our normal review show live on Thursday at noon. But I am bored. So I thought I would do a little mock draft and some thoughts on the stuff about the show that I really like to do that maybe Mike doesn't enjoy quite as much, which is like the roster building side. So I think Mike really enjoys doing like the advanced stats and that kind of thing, but I like the roster building side of it. So today I'd like to do a mock draft and kind of discuss some of the ramifications of the Detroit Lions current roster in regards to the mock draft. So I'm going to get that set up and then we'll talk about it. How do you do that? That's a good question. So I was taking a look at the Lions roster the other day, and mostly like who's going to be an upcoming free agent. And there's some interesting guys on the list. So mainly, I think that the number one player that I'm kind of concerned about, who is not a free agent, is Taylor Decker. So Taylor Decker, let me bring him up here just real quickly, and we'll take a look at the life trials and tribulations of Taylor Decker. Taylor Decker's our left tackle, clearly. He's 6'7", 318. This might have been at his pro day or combine stats when he came out. He was drafted in 2016, so I think he's in year 10. And he's pretty good. He's somewhere right around the 10th best tackle in football, but he does not have any guaranteed money left on his contract after 2025. 2026. Let me just double check that real quickly. Now, the reason I bring that up is that it seems to be kind of like a bookmark for when players start to make decisions about how they want their future to go. And so so this season, 2025, is the last season that he has quote unquote guaranteed money on his deal. So in 2026, there is a roster bonus of, looks like, $1.5 million due on March 17th. So there could be movement on Taylor Decker by March 17th of this upcoming year if the Lions decided we're going to make a change, or he retired, or something to that effect. His contract next season will be less than this current season. Right now it's $23 million. Next year it's 21. Then the year after that, in 2027, it'll be 24. And then there was a void year in 2028. But he's real cheap. I mean, to be honest, $23 million is his cap number this year. If the Lions cut him pre-June 1st, they would save around $2.5 million on their cap. And that is something to also consider, because now the Lions cap space in 2026 is gone. So they are currently over the cap in 2026. Oops, we're just under it, I guess, at 2.5 million. So and that's probably in large part to the Jameson Williams contract, which, you know what, now that I think about it, let's take a look at Jameson Williams' contract, because some people have really maligned that contract, and I don't think that that's warranted. So let me stop sharing my screen, and I'll reshare a different screen. And we can talk about the Jameson Williams contract here for just a second. And now I realize that I've got to share the screen again. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can make it even bigger. That's as big as it goes. So in 2025, we are paying him $7.4 million. In 2026, he's going to make $8.2 million, 13.5 basically guaranteed. That's 2.6% of the projected cap. And then look at these numbers: 10 million, 14, 20. So if we look at the wide receiver position right now, like AAV or whatever, you would have to get to $20 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4. So in 2 years, basically the last year of Jameson Williams' deal, the Lions are going to pay him like he's the 24th highest paid wide receiver this year. And that's future money, like 3 years out. So, but the big deal here obviously is in, I believe it is 2030. You owe him $40 million on a void year, right? And they can just write him a check for that. He counts 0% against the cap. This is the same format as the Kirby Joseph extension. They basically get paid nothing during the time that they're actually playing football on the extension. And then they have a massive 1-year payout the year after the extension is up. So fine. But you're not actually paying Kirby Joseph and Jameson Williams anything close to what they are worth or signed on their contracts. Like, and how it was reported in the press. So like everyone's like, you're paying Jameson Williams $27 million a year. No, you're not. You're going to pay him 8, then 10, then 14, then 20. And then he may not be on the team anymore. And you just write him a check for 40, which doesn't count against the cap. So that's really great. Now I'll go back to the mock draft. That's the thing I said we would do. Okay. So I'll make this bigger, since I always yell at Mike to make this bigger. Okay, so let's take a look at the draft here real quickly. Saints and Jets, Titans, Browns, Dolphins at the top of the draft. They're going to take the best players. The Ravens are still at pick 7. They won this week. Some other people, and then LA. I believe this is who did LA trade with? Houston. I believe this is Houston. No, it's not Houston. They traded out. No, this is Atlanta's pick, I believe. And they take Ty Simpson to be the successor to Matt Stafford. And then we got some other teams that are underperforming here. Now we're getting in. So I don't expect Kansas City to be in the top 20 at the end of it. Jacksonville gave up their pick to the Browns. And then finally we get down here to the Lions at 24. And remember, the mock draft simulator here is also like anticipating like the playoff structure. So what they're saying here is that the Lions are a wild card team. So that's okay. I don't think that we'll be a wild card team, but that's fine. So let's get back to our Taylor Decker conversation. Taylor Decker is, I believe, in year 10. He's had injury issues. He's tough as nails. He is a good tackle that we are not paying much to. So what are we going to do? If he wants to play another year, great. I have no problem with paying him for another year. If not, I think you have to go and get a guy that's like an actual replacement for him, not a developmental project. And I think Brad Holmes has done a ton of really good things with the Lions roster, but he has been very bad when it comes to like developmental projects. Like Giovanni Manu is nowhere close. Like Sione Vaki is a nice special teams player who might be our running back 3 next year, but like I can't think of anything that Sione Vaki has done that has warranted like trading a future day 3 pick in order to go get him. Like I don't think that he's that valuable. Like he seems like a guy that you could have just taken, or whatever. Like his contribution, I don't think has warranted the price that Detroit paid to acquire him. Same thing with Giovanni Manu. Same thing with Broderick Martin. Isaac TeSlaa is still a debate since we're only 7 games into his career, but already he's looked pretty good. And I wouldn't call him a developmental player, but we gave up 3 third round picks to get him. So, and that's not nothing. And I would, one of the common criticisms I hear about my opinion from other Lions fans is, where are you going to put the players on the roster, Drew? Like, where are you going to stash, the non-developmental picks? Like, these guys, if you take a third round player at the end of day 2, that guy's probably not a starter on Detroit. And I agree. But I think if you look at the issues that have plagued the Lions last season and now this season, our depth is better, but our depth could be extraordinary and our depth could be unbelievably cheap. So the Lions back third of their roster has a bunch of 1-year contracts for around $1 million. But those could be even cheaper and be 4-year deals if they are something like 3rd, 4th, and 5th round picks. And considering that they had a bunch of practice squad players come in and play well against the Bucs in our secondary, guys like Nick Whiteside, Eric Hallett, Lauren Strickland, who else was in there? Mollett, Mike last week, he was saying like, I've never heard of these guys. And there's no reason for any like even above average Lions fan to have heard of them because they're practice squad guys. They have been they are like the Tom Kennedys of the Lions roster, but for the secondary for the last couple of years. Like Lauren Strickland is a guy that's been cut and re-signed, like makes it through training camp, makes it through the preseason, gets signed to the practice squad, might get elevated to be the special teams player on a particular week, but there's no reason why anyone would have to learn the name on the back of the jersey. So you have a bunch of those guys come in, and those guys played great against the Bucs. I think they all deserved an opportunity, to be on an NFL roster based on that one play. They fought like demons, but you could have a roster with position groups stacked 3 or 4 deep if you took the third and fourth, fifth round picks that Brad Holmes has spent on some of these players who have not worked out, and use them just to be like, okay, you're a developmental guy, but like you're not from Vancouver, British Columbia, having played at below a D3 level, and we just need to like basically teach you the game of football at a level of competition that you could only have dreamed of playing at. Like, oh, they take Sione Vaki, who played safety at Utah, and they converted him to a running back. Okay. You take Broderick Martin, who played at a MAC school, and you want him to lose a bunch of weight and get his body in the right, and then he never comes around. Like, you take Levi and Wuzurike, and like, these are the misses, right? So I'm talking specifically about them for a reason. Like, you take Levi and Wuzurike in round 2, you took him to be a starting defensive tackle, but you knew that he had injury problems, and like those injury problems have continued and plagued him throughout his NFL career to the point where he's only ever had one healthy season. You get Lee McNeil the round after that, so not a big of a deal because you have a guy in that spot, but like, do more things like that. Do more things like you drafted on Wuzurike and then McNeil, so you draft Terry and Arnold and then Ennis Rakestraw. And stop doing things like drafting guys with significant injury histories. Stop doing things like trading up in like the third round and paying a premium for unproven guys. Like, I mean, I like Tesla quite a lot, but I don't think, but he's unproven. I mean, he didn't do much at Arkansas, and that's probably because of their quarterback play, and he hasn't done much in the NFL, and that's probably because he's a rookie, and he might be great, but then Isaac Tesla does not excuse Broderick Martin, Giovanni Manu, Sione Vaki, Levi and Wuzurike, on and on and on. So I say all of that to say you need to go out and just get a solid guy that might be able to start and hold their own right off the bat. So in this mock, I'm going to assume that after the season, somewhere after the combine, but before the draft, the Lions and Taylor Decker sit down and they say, Taylor, we're willing to trade you to wherever you want to go for something. And we'll trade you to whomever you want. You give us a short list and we'll reach out to those teams. But you're not going to be on the roster next season. And we're going to go out and get your replacement. Now, I've heard people say switch Penei Sewell to left tackle. No, he's a Hall of Fame right tackle. So I don't think that that's something you want to do. And like Francis Mauigoa is also a right tackle. Has only ever played right tackle. So that's the guy that I would want to draft. But you'd have to convert him to the position. And I just went on this rant about not like converting players and that kind of thing. Here's another guy, Jennings Dunker from Iowa. So he plays at Iowa. So obviously the Lions love him. But like, these are guys that are both 6'5", 315 or bigger, but they're both right tackles. The guy that I think that they should take is this guy, LT Overton. And here's the reason. 6'5", 280. This is younger, better Josh Paschal. And this can be the Marcus Davenport across from Aiden Hutchinson as the day one rookie established starter where you don't have a question mark at the position. A lot of people have been talking about this guy, Caden Proctor, if he slips, you should go to the Lions. This guy is an absolute piece of shit. So he's from Iowa. He committed to Iowa. Alabama came in and flipped his recruitment. So he goes to Bama. After his freshman season, Iowa calls up and they're like, come back to Iowa. He does. They give him a $100,000 NIL deal. He then promptly takes that check, deposits it, and then transfers back to Alabama. I mean, that's just an absolute trash player, trash person, as far as I'm concerned. And like, here's the thing: 6'7", 366. Like, I think he's too big to be a left tackle. So I don't like this kid personally. I don't think that he really fits with what the Lions want to do. So I'm not a huge fan of drafting him, especially for a left tackle. And then every tackle in this class has some, like, what I would consider a major issue. Like the two tackles from Utah, one has exceptionally short arms, like unbelievably short arms, and the other one might be the least athletic tackle that you've ever seen. So I'm not really sure what to do here. So there's also a growing number of people that are like, you should take a corner to fill out the cornerback room. And I'm like, if you're going to take a round one corner, you had better play that kid. And where do you want to play him? Like, if you take a first round corner, what I'm hearing is that you've completely given up on Terrion Arnold. And I just don't think that you can give up on Terrion Arnold after year 2. I mean, you have to give him at least 3 years. You should give any rookie 3 years to prove themselves. So I'm going to draft LT Overton here to finally give Aiden Hutchinson somebody on the other side that's going to like wall off the edge. And then remember, we were supposed to have 2 third-round picks this year, and those picks are Isaac TeSlaa. So we do not have a third-round pick this year because we traded all 3 of them for TeSlaa. So like right now, what I would be looking for is an off-ball linebacker or depth. Let's see. Let's look at Caleb Tiernan here. Congrats to Northwestern. They're having a great season. They were 5-1 the last time that I checked. Okay, so here's a guy that you might want to consider. 6'7", 325. So he's a little, quote unquote, a little bit bigger than what Decker is right now. He has played left tackle. This is his 3rd season. That's average. That's really good. He's above average this year. He's given up 5 sacks so far in his career. He is a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker, so that's what you want. The Lions run zone, but they also run gap. He's going to have to get better as a run blocker. And in true pass sets, he's way above average. So if this kid was here, I would think this would be the guy that I would go. I think it's better to have this kid on the roster than not. And now I'm waiting for the 4th round. So we're going to speed this up a little bit. So I'm still looking for an off-ball linebacker. Alex Anzalone is in a contract year. He took a very odd contract incentive to stay on the roster this season. Something like it's like $50,000. It was nothing. So Alex Anzalone, he is 31. And if you look at the Lions roster, there's really not that many people who are even in their mid 30s. That's a pretty young roster, chock full of guys in their 20s. So this is his last season on the books. We're paying him $7.4 million. He's a good player. I like him. I didn't think that I would like him the way that I do. Okay, so I do want to talk about this kid real quick. This is Brian Parker, the second. He plays at Duke. He's 6'5", 305, and he has played right tackle and a little left tackle at Duke. But one of the podcasts that I listen to, the NFL Stock Exchange, are projecting him to be a center. So a lot of center projections are center is a position that is becoming smaller and smaller physically over the last 2 or 3 seasons. You get guys like Tyler Lindenbaum. Who was the other? I think Graham Barton is not that big. I might be wrong about that. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But this guy is pretty good size. 6'5", 305 is not a lot of weight for a dude that height. So Tate Ratledge is looking pretty good at right guard in his rookie season. And I think that if you get that guy a full off season in the program to play along Penei Sewell, to be in the weight room, to study tape, and just get better, I think that he's going to be a really solid, if not excellent, right guard. Christian Mahogany, and technically this is, I believe, year 2 for him, maybe year 3, probably year 2. Had 2 games where he played really well last year, but he's also playing well this year. And I think it's the same thing for him. Like, these 2 guys are going to grow into their relative positions. And then you have, but now the question is, can you find a center? Can we upgrade on Graham Glasgow? And if you can't, which I believe Glasgow is also an unrestricted free agent after the end of the season, which he might be a cheap re-sign, considering his position, his age, and the fact that he's played in Detroit, went to Denver, came back to Detroit. So if you have this kid, you might have your offensive line 4/5 of it. No, now you would have Tiernan. We have Tiernan on this. You would have a young offensive line with Penei Sewell as the established veteran. Well into the end of his contract extension. So I'm going to draft this kid at this spot. Because I don't think he's going to be there. I'm not going to do any trades in this draft just because I want to start learning some names, and not a lot of these guys will not be in the class. They will transfer to other schools. They will, return to college, their current colleges, that kind of thing. All right. So I want to talk about something real quick. This kid, Drew Aller, went to Penn State. They're having their worst season in a long time. He is 6'5", 235. He has played pretty well at Penn State. Here's the thing that I think makes him good for the Lions. He is big. The Lions, Jared Goff is 6'4". This kid is of comparable size. He's a little bit bigger. He is best over the intermediate part of the field, and that's what the offense is designed to do. Here's my thinking. Jared Goff is 31. His contract spikes next season. They will have to restructure Jared Goff's contract to have any kind of cap room, I think. They are coming up on having to pay Aiden Hutchinson maybe the biggest non-quarterback contract in league history until the next guy. And the best asset that you can have in professional football is a competent rookie contract quarterback. And the Lions have Kyle Allen as a backup, and they feel that he is able to come in and run the offense so they don't have to change much if Jared Goff, God forbid, would get hurt. But there's no one that can make the argument that Kyle Allen has a future on this football team. Here's what I'm suggesting. If for some reason Drew Aller was there in round 5, which I just don't think that he will be, but if he was there in round 5, this is a snap pick for the Lions. And then you can keep him on the roster just learning and getting, he's your backup. He is your preseason quarterback. Like, you can do with him like what you did with Hendon Hooker, except that this kid ran a pro style offense at Penn State and just needs to get his mechanics, and his body right. It's one thing when you take an injury riddled player and you trade up for him, and there's another one when you pick a guy like Drew Aller. So I am a huge fan of that pick. I don't think it's something that's going to be there. This kid, Josh Hoover, he's also a guy that I think the Lions should be interested in. 6'2", 200, so a vastly different physical player. Good deep grade, not as good of an intermediate grade. Excellent when there's no pressure, which is what the Lions have decided to invest in on their offensive line. He's terrible when he gets pressured, but that's a lot of quarterbacks. And he throws picks, but he also throws deep balls, and I think that he's the kind of guy that could like unlock certain aspects of the Lions offense in a way that Jared Goff cannot. But we already picked a quarterback, so I'm not going to pick him. Let's see. I would love a off-ball linebacker. I don't think I'm going to get one here. Let's see. What should we do? So the thing that I think the Lions should be looking at doing here is like continuing to look at position groups and looking to say, we want to draft solid football players who we do not owe a ton of money to, but who are on long contracts. So like last season? No. 2 years ago, they took Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. I'd like to see them go back to something like that and basically say, we're going to develop a second line of defensive backs behind them, right? So here's the guy. Jermaine Matthews, 5'11", 190. So he's a little bit bigger than Amik Robertson. Decent coverage grade, better man coverage grade. Lions run a lot of man. Not a great run defender. Not a great zone guy, right? But this seems like the kind of guy, he's played in the slot. He's played in the corner. He's played box. He's played a little deep. There's that kind of thing. This is the kind of guy that I would be looking at as like, okay, you're pretty good. Let's have you be a developmental backup player who we have on the roster for 4 seasons. Here's Damani Jackson. This guy was like a 5-star recruit, 6'1", 196. These grades are not good, but like plays at Bama. He's played a lot of corner. Can you take this guy off of the measurables and develop him to become like a good, backup defensive back on your team? That kind of thing. So like that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at right here. Can you go back to the edge group? Who's the highest rated edge player here? Is it TJ Guy? So TJ Guy, 6'4", 250. So that's a little bit less than what the Lions want to see across from Aiden Hutchinson. But could this guy be partially back up Aiden Hutchinson? He's not nearly as big, right? So pretty good pass rush win rate, decent run defender, better pass rusher. I don't think, outside tackle. He's traditionally like a 7 or a 9 technique. But could this guy be somebody that, offers you just a little bit of something else? Okay, so Damon Wilson, same size and weight, 6'4", 250. Let's see. His stats are better, 16, better run blocker. So let's draft this guy, right? Basically, he's outside tackle again. So like, can the line? Oh, we got another one. So like, let's see, Vincent Anthony, Damani Jackson. So TJ Guy's still on the board. They have said that they are going to re-sign Amon Hassanine. So there's another young, defensive end that they are going to develop. Assuming that nobody signs him after his injury settlement is over, which we don't know when that's going to be. But like, what I am interested in doing here is in round 1, taking somebody that can quote unquote help immediately in the few areas of the team that still need that. Jaden Lucas, let's take a look. 6'2", 200. And like this would be the time to take a guy just because he's fast or just because of the measurables or, whatever. 6 foot 185, better man coverage than he is zone coverage, but he's still good at zone. Like, I'm going to take this kid. Don't know anything about these guys, right? So I'm going largely off of, and then we have, I believe this year we have the quote unquote Mr. Irrelevant pick. Aiden Child's hilarious. So let's see. What would I want here? Oh, I know who I want. I want this kid, Eric Gentry from L. This kid is a linebacker. He's 6'6", 225. You should see this guy play. Like, I watched him play against Michigan. His body type is so weird and crazy. Like, I just think this guy offers like a really unique kind of player. So let's take this guy. I earned an award. Hooray. Okay, so let's review our draft just real quickly. First of all, I don't put much stock into the grades. Like, we are in October, right? It's not even Halloween yet. And we don't really know what the rosters are going to look like, how many of these kids are going back to school, who gets hurt, whose stock is up, whose stock is down, that kind of stuff. But this is largely just, and if we put him at center, if this read OC, like, I don't think that it's an A, right? So for whatever reason, PFF does not list edge as one of the Lions' needs. It's tackle, center, D-line, which I think is weird because what do they really mean by D-line? Edge is a part of the D-line. I think they mean interior defensive line. But and then they list corner because I think a lot has to do with that DJ Reed and Terrion Arnold both got hurt. So let's take a look at this. So LT Overton, this is I step into the Marcus Davenport role. Marcus Davenport is on a 1-year deal. So then I think that if you re-sign Marcus Davenport, which I think you could probably do for $1 million, $1.5 million, that kind of thing, like, he becomes good veteran leadership, a rotational player who doesn't have to play the number of snaps that seems to get him hurt quite frequently, and that he can mentor this kid. Maybe they split the snap share. Caleb Tiernan is your eventual replacement to Taylor Decker. If that means that Dan Skipper has to leave the roster, then so be it. I think you've upgraded tackle 3 in the short term, and you can develop this guy to year 2. Maybe he takes over for Taylor Decker, right? And then Giovanni Manu becomes your OT3. He's in there for special teams and like goal line situations, and you buy time to continue to develop him into, like, I mean, it would be an excellent thing to be like, you have an excellent OT3, so now he can take, one tight end spot in certain formations, and you have an absolute enormous people moving line between Tate Ratledge. Can you imagine if you're our defense and you have to line up and it's Tate Ratledge in year 2, Penei Sewell, who's already one of the best, most athletic tackles in the NFL, and Giovanni Manu, who's actually like hunkered down and like become comfortable in his OT3 role. Like, that's a lot of human mass in order to deal with. And so then Brian Parker becomes your rookie center. There's probably going to be some issues there, but now he's playing behind nobody else is brand new. They're used to the calls. They've been in the offense for 1 or 2 years. I think that's interesting. Drew Aller is a physical specimen, to be honest, who has all of the talent, I think, to become a good quarterback. And you could sit him at this if you were to get, which I don't think he'll never make it to this point. But like, if you got him at this spot, you could sit him for 2 years behind Goff just to learn, just to get into the NFL mindset and that kind of thing, and allow him to see, like, this is just like exploratory, appropriate development, in my opinion. Damon Wilson, this is like another Ahmad Hassanein to me. Like, let's take a guy who's shown something, see if we can develop it. And then you've taken two. I don't know why this one is a C plus and this one is an A. Just because you picked him 35 picks later, I don't know. But like, you've taken two guys that, along with Ennis Rakestraw, can develop into backup secondary defensive players. And then Eric Gentry, I think, would offer you a lot as a special teamer, plus maybe like a drop player on defense, where like he has exceptionally long arms, and like maybe he gums up a bunch of like throwing lanes, that kind of thing, if you wanted to like disguise coverages. So I think that that's a pretty interesting draft. This is just for science, but I mean, like, I do think it's interesting that the Lions have nearly continually picked linemen, especially offensive linemen, recently in their drafts. And here we go. We got one lineman, defensive lineman, offensive lineman, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. You just continually have to draft these guys. But I would rather see a Lions roster stacked with guys who are developmental, but on 4-year deals, picked at like an appropriate spot and not trading up, for the world, than like the Giovanni Manus, Sione Vakis, and Broderick Martins of the world. So I just want to, let's just for the sake of argument, let's do one more mock where we take that into consideration. Okay, so let's slow this down. Still got Detroit. Let's actually slow this down more, because I'm going to want to trade up. I'm going to target trading up with the Raiders. Okay, so let's start and we'll just see what happens. So we go. Okay, Dante Moore, quarterback. Interesting. That would be awful. Caleb Downs to the Jets. That's an excellent pick. I don't like that pick for them, but that's okay. I don't like that pick for them either. Don't like that pick for them. Mekhi Lemon. Okay, so now I'm going to pause. So now I want to trade up with the Cardinals. So if I want pick 9 and you want pick 24, they don't want to do this trade. So if I offer my second round pick this year, they still don't want it. If I offer my 1 next year, they'll absolutely do it. So if I offer my 2 next year and a 3 this year, they don't want to do it. So 2s and 2s, that's too rich. Okay, so here we go. If I offered my 1 and a 2 and a 3 next year, I can jump up 15 spots. So let's offer that pick. Oh, stop. So 9 for 24.56 and a 3 next year. Offer the trade. Not accepted. So we got to sweeten it a little bit. Can I throw in 198? Okay, so now we're on the clock. Now, this is the kid I want to draft, Arvell Reese. 6'4", 243. He's going to be the next Alex Anzalone, except he might be Micah Parsons. This kid, for whatever reason, like Ohio State didn't let him play last year. Let's see. They let him play a total of 309 defensive snaps. He already has more than that in less than half the games. And I assume that Ohio State's going to be playing, they're going to make the college football playoff, and they're probably going to get past the first or second game of the playoff, right? They're pretty good. Number 1 team in the country right now. So I think he's like halfway through his season. This kid's great. This kid is just great. So he's an excellent tackler. The Lions will love that. And like, I don't think that these grades really do him justice. Like, but the thing to think about here is like, he's going to be like lined up as there were questions about Micah Parsons when Micah Parsons was drafted. Like, is that kid an off-ball linebacker, or is he a pass rusher? It's the same thing with this kid. And like, if you get 75% of Micah Parsons and you put that on a defense with Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, this is the kind of thing that I think that the Lions, quote unquote, should trade up for. Like, he's a linebacker. So like already I can hear people being like, Drew, you're an idiot. You've yelled for years that like you don't trade up for linebackers at all in the first round, but like you would trade up for a pass rusher. And if this kid is a pass rusher, then he's a pass rusher that can also help you at linebacker as opposed to a linebacker that can help your pass rush. Like, that's way better if he's primarily a pass rusher, and there's going to be a spot to fill if Anzalone isn't retained, so I think that that's interesting, and so here I am, I've traded up. Who am I trading up for? So there's Jeremiah Love. The Lions aren't going to do that. You could trade up for a quarterback, right? You could trade up for a quarterback. Do you want Ty Simpson? 6'2", 208, 22, almost 23 years old. These are elite grades. He's good in the middle. He's good deep. He's good when he's not pressured. Like, he's not as good when he is pressured. Like, this adjusted completion percentage, that is like what Jared Goff is doing right now. He's playing at Bama. So, like, turnover-worthy plays, that's pretty low. He makes almost 3 times, 2.5 times the big time throw rate than he does turnovers. That's great. The drop rate, his wide receivers are dropping the ball. If he goes to Detroit, this number falls down to like 1% or less. So if you gave him, imagine what his adjusted completion percentage, I think takes out drop rate. But like average time to throw 3 seconds, great. That's excellent. If we took Ty Simpson, it would be, okay, here's the next era of Detroit Lions quarterbacks. Like, and if you want to be a franchise that's relevant after you make a quarterback change, and I'm not saying that they should move on from Jared Goff, but if you want to be relevant, you either need to make a move like this where you're drafting a quarterback, I think somewhere in the top 10 or 15 picks, or you have to go the like Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold route, which the Lions are also set up to do. So the reason why I'm in favor of this idea is if you hit on Ty Simpson, it fixes your salary cap issues for like the length of the amount of. So like if you draft Ty Simpson, I'm talking myself into this, by the way. If you draft Ty Simpson and he works out at all, where he's even like, let's say he's not as good as Jared Goff. Let's say he's the 20th best quarterback in the NFL, but he's like a functional NFL quarterback. Your salary cap is fixed for the length of time that he's on his rookie deal. And then you have an opportunity to like remake your roster again. And there's no other position that can offer that, in professional football. But I traded up for this kid, Arvell Reese. So I'm going to take that kid. Now I'm going to speed this way up because we don't pick again until 124. And like, if the Lions were to make a move like that, they're essentially taking off, day 1 and day 2. This kid might be worth taking. Jadarian Price is Jeremiah Love's backup running back at Notre Dame, but he might be better. Probably not, but he might be. 5'11", 210. He's enormous. Look at these grades. I just think that this guy's great. And like, we have Sione Vaki, who might be running back 3, and I'd probably keep that. I think it's Jeremiah Sailors, I think his name is, as like running back 4. But like this kid at this pick he's a starting caliber running back in the NFL, and you could get him in round 4. Cade Klubnik, 6'2", 210, so he's not as big as Goff. He's having a decent year grade-wise, but Clemson's having a terrible year, winning. A little bit better under pressure than some of the other quarterbacks that we have seen or taken a look at. and like good at the intermediate, pretty good, deep, better than Goff deep, I would imagine. I don't know what Goff's numbers look like or whatever. Here's Drew Aller again. I'm not going to pick him twice. Here's Parker again. I'm not going to pick him twice. Like here's Carter Smith. So Carter Smith, look at this guy. 6'5", 313. So a little bit shorter, but weighs pretty much the same as Taylor Decker. Plays at Indiana. Not a joke anymore, above average, really good, elite, and getting better every year. Probably helps that the team has gotten better around him. But look at this pass block grade. That's elite. And like let's look at the teams that he's played. Old Dominion, not good. I don't know what this is. I don't know what that is. Illinois was good at this point, played really well against them. Went to Iowa. And by the way, Iowa looks totally different this year. They have a mobile quarterback that's making plays outside of structure, and Iowa has trapped themselves so much in structure that I didn't ever think they could get out of it. And now, like, they're a team that I absolutely do not want to play. Played exceptionally well against Oregon, played against Michigan State, played well against UCLA. Like, this kid is just, I think in the 4th round, like, you'd be ridiculous to not draft him, so I'm going to. Okay, so Drew Aller's still on the board. So let's look at this guy, Lawson Lucky. How big? 6'4", 240, so he's smaller than Laporta. So, I'd be looking at, like, right now, like, can we upgrade on over Shane Zylstra at tight end 3? 6'7", 250. Okay. So receiving, good receiver. Run block grade, not very good, which is interesting considering that he's this size. But I'll bet if he's willing, we could teach him how to block. Edge, 6'6", 260. I'm going to end up taking this kid. This kid, Nick Harbor, Michigan recruited him, and he doesn't have great grades, but look at this. He's a wide receiver, right? 6'5", 235. Michigan recruited him as a defensive end. And he went to North Carolina because they were going to let him play wide receiver. But I mean, like, he runs something like a 9 or a 10-1 100-yard dash, and he plays track, or he ran track at his high school and was like could have done things like track wise in college as well. Like he's an unbelievable athlete. Like I wouldn't mind seeing him to see if something like the Lions could make something out of that kind of thing. All right, let's see. We take Hoover. Iamaleava is how I think you say this guy's last name. This guy's enormous, 6'6", 215. Remember, he played at Tennessee these 2 years. I wish that there was a little college icon above these years that you could say that you could let's email or let's tweet at Trevor Sikkema, who runs let's see, how do we tweet at somebody here? Let's see, at Trevor. Oh, it's Tampa Bay Trey. Sorry. Tampa Bay. Yeah, there he is. Hey, Trevor. It would be cool if we had a college insignia in the MDS over for where each draftable rookie played their career so that we can be better informed. Thanks. So, Tennessee, UCLA, I believe. I would like somebody. He's super mobile. And 2 years of starting experience. Really good against Penn State. UCLA is not good this year. But, I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on somebody like this in order to 6'5", 263. I bet you can get up to 270. Pass rush win rate. Pass rush, true pass sets. Not a very good run player. This is like backup Aiden Hutchinson to me. So I'm going to draft him. Just to continue filling out like one position group rooms worth of people. Like, let's go and I think they've signed a lot of good backup linebackers. Now, Rodrigo is set to have his practice window open this week, I think. So now they're going to have to cut somebody in order to make a roster spot for him. So there's plenty of good linebacker depth on this team. I think there's some decent defensive back depth on this team, but what's the next area that we can build that depth? 6'3", 261. It's kind of a guy. I'm willing to take a bunch of guys into camp and see you get hurt, you don't get hurt, you're running through the wall, your hair's on fire, yada yada yada. I don't remember who we picked. I mean, 6'4", 285 is just a small center prospect. A lot of tackles. Let's take a look at RJ. Is this the 6'7" guy? 6'4", 240. Doesn't really do much. We drafted. I like this kid a lot, Xavier Nwankpa. He's an excellent run defending safety. Maybe this is backup Brian Branch. Let's take him. If the guys that we just had play against the Bucks, they might now garner interest and be signed off the practice squad. They don't like the fact that we drafted a linebacker at 9, right? So I make it. So, it's an F. This was an F. We took 3. This is largely a pass rusher that I don't think has to play edge. And we took 3 edges and a safety, overall grade D-. So I think that a couple things hurt us. I think the fact that this guy's graded as a linebacker, not an edge player, hurt us. The fact that we made a big trade up, the fact that we then drafted a position that's not listed as a need for the Lions by PFF, which I think is ridiculous. And all of these, this is a position that's not well regarded as a position of value. Neither is linebacker. You traded up and gave away extra picks, but that's the difference in how these boards can look, So that's just some thoughts. We're going to do another mock draft, quote unquote, for real, on Thursday at noon. So if you see this episode in between now and Thursday, the 2030th, the 2030th, then feel free to join us for that one. That would be fun to have anybody stop by and say hi. And thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us for the first episode of Off the Bench. Talk to you later. Bye.